Hey guys, Montel here. Today I'm asking you to help out a family in need. Sophie Ryan has been battling a low-grade optic pathway glioma brain tumor since she was 8.5 months old. She's now 8.5 years old. And after years of chemotherapy and clinical trials, 3 major brain surgeries and 1 minor brain surgery, she's been left almost completely blind, lost almost all her vision, and is now disabled on her left side from a major brain surgery that she had this past February. Unfortunately, her tumor and multiple cysts are growing back again. The good news that there is hope. There is hope out there. So please welcome Tracy and Sophie. Tracy, Sophie, how you doing?
Hi.
I'm doing good. How are you?
I've been doing pretty good. How's your summer been going, Sophie?
It has been doing good, y'all.
Yeah? You told me something there during the break that you got yourself a new kitty.
Yep.
What's her name?
Her name's Pearl Isabel Ryan.
Oh, okay. Wow, is she a good kitty?
Yes, she is sweet, like
Yes.
sugar.
What kind of cat is she?
She's a rag doll. When you pick her up, she goes black.
Oh, that's so good. You been feeling good?
Yes.
Yay. You're so strong. People love to see you and love to hear from you. You give people a lot of hope and a lot of strength. You know that, right? Yeah. Well, hey, will you give me a minute so I can talk to your mom?
Yes.
Okay, let me talk to her for a second and then you come back, okay?
Okay, I need to go.
Okay, I'll see you in a minute.
Okay, when should I come back?
I'll let you know, okay?
I thought I wasn't going to be part of the whole conversation.
You will go out there
I
with
thought I was going to be part of the first.
That was part of the first.
When
And
will I
Daddy's out
come
there waiting
back?
for you.
When will
I'll
I
let you
come
know, okay? I'll give you a buzz.
back? Right?
That's right, my baby.
See you in a minute, Montel.
In a minute, Sophie.
She's
Tracy
getting so
Ryan, how are you doing?
I'm good. Things have been insane, but we're really optimistic. We've had a bit of a crazy road lately, but we feel like we're on a really great track to help Sophie right now.
You know what? It's been a year, and I'm glad that we just had Sophie on for a second. I don't want you don't want her sitting here while we talk about what's been going
Yeah.
on with her. But why don't you bring people up to speed what's been happening? Because when we left you a year ago, Sophie was doing pretty good. As a matter of fact, you had her on a really good CBD regimen, and you had her on a cannabis regimen. But you also had her, seeing some of the top specialists, and she seemed to be doing well. Now, what has happened?
Her brain tumor was stable for about 1.8 years. Unfortunately, these types of tumors, even though they're low grade, they have such a high recurrence rate, especially because she was diagnosed when she was a baby. And sometime around October, we started to, of this past year, we started to realize that her left hand was starting to curl up and it began disabled. At one point, it was literally like under her chin, and she began limping on her left side. And what had happened was this cyst started growing deep in her brain where a lot of the motor controls are. And it was restricting the communication from the brain to her left side. So in the end of February, on February 25th, we had to go in and do a massive, massive surgery because this was so deep down. So they went in, they took that cyst out, another cyst, a huge chunk of disease, and they removed the part of her brain that was causing seizures so we could also eradicate the seizures. And this was a massive surgery, the biggest one she's ever had. And unfortunately, when we started taking her off the steroids, which they give her post-op to keep the brain from swelling and causing even more damage, her brain got really angry and wasn't ready to come off those steroids. And she lost the ability to actually completely move her left hand and left foot. That's now coming back slowly, but the brain recovers really, really slow. And unfortunately, on the next scan, 2.5 months later, all of the disease that was still left had started growing again, as well as a couple of other cysts that had been left in there. So her hospital wanted to put her back on chemotherapy, and the chemotherapy they had available to her, she's highly, highly allergic to, and has already failed it once at 4 times the dose of when she was having those high allergens. And the rest is experimental. And we've been doing our own research with Dr. Anahid Jewett. We understand why she has this disease. She has a lack of natural killer cells in her brain. And we've now been introduced to this incredible research institute that's been eradicating some of the most aggressive tumors on the planet, including glioblastoma and DIPG. And my scientist/business partner has been collaborating with them. And we now know we now believe we have an answer for Sophie that can help her long term.
Wow. I mean, for those who don't know a lot about Sophie's story, we talked last year. They can go back and look at my podcast from last year, which was, I think really enlightening. But just give them a little bit of taste. She was first diagnosed with a very odd type of tumor. It's called a optic. What is it?
Pathway glioma. Optic pathway glioma. OPG for short.
At 8.5 months.
8.5 months old. Yep. It's a very slow growing disease traditionally, even though Sophie's is a bit more aggressive than most. And it normally has a 90+% survival rate, but an 85% recurrence rate. And vision loss is a big side effect. Sophie's almost completely blind right now. So it was, I don't know, a couple weeks, Montel, after her diagnosis, we got put in touch with your old pal, Ricky Lake, former talk show host alongside you. And you guys were around the same time period. I grew up with both of you. Mm-hmm. And she had started a documentary called Weed the People, which is now on Netflix, which introduced us to cannabis. And when we first heard about it, we were just like, we're not going to give an infant cannabis. But then the more we began to learn, we're like, oh my God, why aren't more people giving infants cannabis? Because of the medicinal value of it and what we now know it does to the immune system after our clinicals at UCLA that we're going to be publishing here really soon. And Sophie began her journey at 9 months old in the film. She took doses of THC and CBD. They're both highly, highly medicinal and valuable when treating cancer. And it was a landslide of cannabis everything from then on, from the education, from being linked to other families, to building a brand, to helping thousands and thousands of people all over the world and getting our message to millions because of what we saw this plant not just doing with Sophie, but with so many other people as well. And what we've learned is that this lack of natural killer cells Sophie has in her brain, NK cells happen to be directly linked to cannabinoids as well. When you consume cannabis, it turns that natural killer cell system back on. It's when that system fails that your body can actually allow a cancer to grow and thrive. For some reason, Sophie has this weird blood-brain barrier malfunction going on from the neck down. Her immune function and her natural killer cell function is 5 times that of any healthy adult my scientist has studied in 30 years, but in her brain, she has none. So cannabis is only going to do so much for her from an immunological standpoint. She heals faster than any child her neurosurgeons have ever seen. She was remaining seizure-free using cannabis alongside Keppra. You take her off the cannabis, even with the Keppra, she'd seize again. And just her overall immuno response when on treatment was incredible when you compared her to other children. So the benefits have been vast with the cannabis, but we have to take it one step further now. And that's where we went from having this company, Cannakids, which you've heard of before, using medical cannabis to help patients of all ages with a focus on children, to now building my immunotherapy company called Encore Biotherapeutics, so that we can take what we've learned in cannabis, translate that into science, and partner it with the research my scientist has already been doing for 30 years to help children like Sophie not only eradicate these diseases, but fix the problem that allowed them to be there in the first place, hoping they never come back again.
But now she's faced with having to face a really tough protocol, right? That's extremely expensive. Talk a little bit about that.
So this protocol that we're doing is not covered by insurance because it's considered quote unquote experimental. These guys have been using this therapeutic for over 10 years on really aggressive tumors like glioblastoma. They've got patients 10 to 13 years out with no recurrence and no side effects. But it hasn't gone through these very large trials of human beings where they then take that through the FDA with a path to market, where the therapeutic then lands in the hands of doctors. These are compassionate use trials they've been doing. It's a very complex trial. It's very specialized. It's very expensive for hospitals to adopt, and therefore very hard for them to get into the medical system. So the first step with Sophie's procedure is gamma knife radiation, 300 beams of very low dose radiation targeted within 1 millimeter to the tumor. We're doing that to rough up the tumor. And what happens when you do that, it causes this release of what's called antigens. Antigens is like waving a flag in the air, telling the immune function, here's where the bad cells are, come and kill them. So once we rough the tumor up, she's then going to get this low dose of chemotherapy that stunts her T cells. We don't expect this to be side effect inducing at all. It's simply to stun those T cells so that they are kind of just in they're kind of in a stable space, so that they're not taking a lot of action. They've been slowed down and they can be retrained. my husband or I, depending on whose cells are best matched for her, are going to go through a procedure called apheresis, which is also very expensive. It's much like dialysis in the fact they take blood out of one arm. They take the really good positive immune cells, like our NK cells, out of the blood, and then they pump it back into our other arm. Those cells will then be activated and given to Sophie. And what we're seeing in past patients is that these cells, once activated, have been able to cross the blood-brain barrier successfully and then retrain those T cells how to fight. They're called CD8 positive T cells. And then with the T cells and the backing of the natural killer cells, not only should we be able to fix the problem going on in Sophie's brain, but her own immune function should then recognize that disease and eliminate it, which is what we have seen in all other disease that they've treated with it thus far.
But the bottom line is, to get it done, you need money. We
A lot.
need to get the funding, a lot of money. So I know everybody's watching right now needs to understand that anything down at $1, 50 cents, dig through the couch, find a change that's underneath the pillows, and send it in right now.
Yeah.
And we're giving them the GoFundMe page information.
Yes. If you go to GoFundMe, it's actually quite a long URL, but if you go to GoFundMe and you search Sophie Ryan, SOPHIE, Ryan, RYAN, it'll be the first thing that you see come up. It's for Sophie Ryan's clinical trial. We have the goal set at $165,000. We've raised close to 50 of that so far this past week, but we're only a third of the way there. And these treatments are extremely expensive, but could advance research in ways that I've only been hoping to see over the last 8 years. So this is for Sophie, but also for children like her.
And it's also for Sophie. It will give her a positive outlook on possibly having a much longer future, correct?
Yes, absolutely. Well, that, and not only that, but then we can really focus on hopefully getting some of that vision back. Because with those optic nerves being strangled by this disease, the chances of her being able to see again are very low, even with science being advanced. So we want this little girl to have a happy, healthy life. She deserves it. 8 years she's been going through torture. So yeah, we could get this left side fixed with therapy, which we're doing now. We can get rid of this brain tumor. We can fix her vision. She can have a normal life just like every other child standing next to her.
But she only gets that if people reach out who are watching this video right now. And why not? Sophie is such a wonderful little child who is literally giving strength and meaning to so many around the world. I mean, I know there's so many other parents who have been through difficult times that lean on your story and Sophie's story to get them through.
Montel, she says she doesn't want to go to college anymore. She just wants to work in the lab with mommy and cure cancer because she doesn't want to see the sick babies being hurt any longer. That's literally her life goal, is not only for herself to heal, but to help me help others. She's so determined and so positive about that. She wants to be fans for these other little children.
Well, and so many people who are watching right now need to understand that you too can help her achieve that goal just by digging deep and digging in and donating. Donating this GoFundMe page right now is saving a little girl's life.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, $1, people think, oh, it's just $1. It's not going to help. But if everybody we knew gave $1, just one, we would have already met our goal. It's
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. You know, I mean, to have gone through what you've been going through in the last 6 or 7 months through the whole COVID pandemic, that had to have been crazy.
Yeah, it was. It was really challenging, especially because Sophie had to have this major brain surgery while we were in the peak of all this COVID activity going on. My husband and I barely got vaccinated right in time for it to kick in so that if we went to the hospital with her and we did get exposed, we wouldn't get sick. I mean, can you imagine taking care of a little girl who just had the most aggressive brain surgery she's ever had? And this is her third major brain surgery. And then one of us getting sick. It was terrifying. It was so scary.
Wow. Well, again, I'm going to reach out. I'm reaching out to everybody who's watching right now and making sure they understand. Can go, where do they go to donate?
Gofundme.com and search Sophie Ryan, SOPHIE, Ryan, RYAN. It'll be the first little page you see pop up, and it's for Sophie Ryan's clinical trial.
And if they do fund this, when will she have the procedure?
Well, we have been lucky enough to go ahead and start the process. My husband and I put down a large sum of our own money, as much as we could afford to do without our family really being put in financial jeopardy. And now that we've raised another $50,000, they've already started the process for us. They're going to help me out with a payment plan. I don't quite yet know how long they're going to give me to pay it off, but I'm going to raise this money, Montel, because I have to one way or another. I asked my friend the other day if they knew somebody who bought organs, because if I have to sell an organ for this child to make her well again, I would literally do it.
We don't want you to have to do that. We want people to dig deep and give. That's what we really want.
Absolutely.
I can't thank you enough, Tracy. Make sure you please come back and update everybody and let them know how Sophie's doing, okay?
Oh, for sure. Thank you so much again for having us. It's really great to see you.
Absolutely. Give my love to Sophie, a big kiss to her and that kitty, and you guys take care, okay?
You too, Montel. Thank you.
Thank you. So, hey, guys, so you know what? It's time for me to ask, please. All you have to do is go to the GoFundMe page and look up Sophie Ryan. That's SophieRyan, and give whatever you can, even $1. Just go to the couch right now and dig between the little cushions there and see if you have change. Give the change. Anything you can give will give hope to Sophie and so many more, so many others who have been suffering from the same type of tumors with no hope. So we need your help. Please donate today. Go to GoFundMe, Sophie Ryan, right now.